You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Speaking of racism, the New York Police Department has fired Deputy Inspector James Coble after an investigation revealed he posted hundreds of racist and sexist statements on an online message board. Between June 2019 and September 2020, Coble posted more than 500 messages on an online message board used by current and former cops to vent about politics, police matters, and the media. Some of Coble's messages included comments referring to Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark as a gap-toothed wild beast, Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie as a savage, and former President Barack Obama as a Muslim savage. On January 11th, Coble filed for retirement. However, the department fired him before 30 days had passed, the time needed to process his retirement. Coble will still get his pension, but he may lose his 19 months of accrued vacation time, which is worth more than $280,000. I say snatch it all.
Good, good.
This is ridiculous. I mean, there is no context where what he said could have been taken any other way. I mean, this is the most demeaning and purposefully hateful things that you could possibly say. And wait,
hold on, Misha, it gets better. He was the anti-harassment cop for NYPD.
Yeah.
How are these people getting chosen?
Easy.
The litmus test.
The anti-harassment cop.
That's the environment. They believe in harassment. They don't care.
And see, look, it's just like Michael the other day when the cops in Georgia who got busted because they had the body cam running and their racism was being recorded. That's the piece though. And people say it's unfair for you to call cops racist.
See, what's happening is that a lot of people's everyday actions and everyday vernacular and sayings are being exposed and they're being held accountable. But when you hold white supremacists accountable, then they say you're picking on them. Now, you just talked about fragility, okay, and these white supremacists. Now, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS papers, and you know that was a brilliant sister. I knew Dr. Welsing. She talked about European white supremacy and racism. But you have people like one of my teachers, Professor Kabahaya Kamene, who calls it white fragility because they're really fragile. They're not superior, they're fragile. So you hit on something what you said because you when you listen to them, they can't take out criticism like they dish out. if you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday, you know, she wasn't crying, but she was crying. She was shedding these virtual white tears. But then today, she was defiant, saying being on the committee was a waste of time. Well, why was your ass on the committee then?
Right. Why were you fighting for it?
Why were you fighting for it? And why was your ass on 3 committees in the first place? You know, so if you sit back and just analyze this, do a systems analysis, as Dr. Leonard Jeffries would say, do a systems analysis, you would see how really fragile and weak many of these people are. And insecure.
On a really basic level, look, when you on social media, it's public record. It's public record. I don't understand. People don't understand.
Right. But see, worse.
Public record.
This fool was using a pseudonym called Clouseau, and he was putting personal details on his post that actually they were able to come back and it matched his. Okay.
Oh, you always go.
So I greatly appreciate. Let me say it right now. I want to thank all of you bigots. I want to thank you racists. I want to thank you for revealing who you are. I want to thank you for being so public. And I keep saying, y'all, every time one of them lose their job, I want somebody black to replace them.
Yeah.
Every time. That's what I desire.
Yep.
What I desire. Every single night. We've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Hebert, Fatal Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Bradeboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi. Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. 37-year-old Janet Irvin is now facing charges in the Quawan Bobby Charles case. The 15-year-old boy was found dead in a sugarcane field last November after investigators say Charles was last seen with Irvin and her 17-year-old son. According to the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office, Irvin is facing charges of contributing to the delinquency of a minor and failed to report a missing child. On October 30th, Irvin and her son picked up Charles outside of his father's home in Baldwin, Louisiana. Charles's parents said at the time they didn't know Irvin or her son and never consented to Charles leaving with them. Now, these charges come months after the family has been demanding Irvin be charged with Charles's disappearance. The Charles family says they believe law enforcement dragged their feet because Charles is black. Lawyers for the family issued a statement on Tuesday saying, quote, "We will continue to fight, we will continue to advocate for Quawan's family, and we will work tirelessly in our pursuit of justice, transparency, and accountability." This is a very, very troublesome case, Monique.
Yes.
Y'all show it again. I am going to. So let me. I gotta pull it up, but let me warn our audience. I'm going to show you the photo. But I'm warning folks, so I'm giving you about a 60 to 90 second head start. So I will literally show it in 2 minutes. But if you need to turn away, please do so. This young boy leaves. Y'all roll the footage, please. This is what he looks like. You'll see in here what he looks like. But then I'm going to show you what it looked like when his body was found. And it never added up in this case. My problem here is when the cops initially, when they got the call, their position was, oh, he's probably at a football game. Based on nothing, like nothing, then all of a sudden, it was different when his body was found. So she has not been charged with murder, but this is at least a start, Monique.
Yeah, they're still not there though yet. This one is sinister, and I don't know. I always, my gut told me the family knew more than they were saying, but law enforcement to me is complicit in this. And I just have had a feeling from the very beginning that a small circle of people knew exactly what happened and that some of them were in power and were not saying.
That is certainly the case, I believe, Robert, as well, because it made no sense whatsoever.
And it reminds me a lot of the Kendra Johnson case here in Georgia, where the community is demanding justice, they're demanding outside prosecution, they're demanding investigation, and we have this good old boy system of police officers and prosecutors, which makes it very difficult to find justice, particularly in small towns in America, without the ability to bring national attention to the case. As I often do, I like to substitute our young black victim in this case for our fictional young white woman named Lily White, who's the same age, wearing a Girl Scout uniform or cheerleading uniform, depending on the situation. What would the national response be if that was Lily White who was missing? Would the police just say she's probably at a football game and put no more thought into it? Would there be no more national press attention on it? No, we know exactly what would have happened. Nancy Grace would have been down there. Anderson Cooper would be there. They would have helicopters, 24-hour coverage until they found out what happened. We have to do the same. This is why black media is so important. It's why black organizations are so important, because the only way to shine that bright light on subjects is to have people who care about it. And sunlight is the ultimate antiseptic, and the more we pay attention to this case, the more likely justice is to be served.
And again, when we talk about Mustafa, what is so strange about this, and again, so folks, this is the warning, so please turn away if you like. On the left is Bobby Charles. On the right is how he was discovered. Teeth missing, knocked out. I'm sorry, folks. That is shades of Emmett Till. Something clearly nefarious happened here, and this boy and his family have not gotten justice, Mustafa.
Yeah, first thing I thought of when I saw it was Emmett Till. this just speaks to the disparities that we have in relationship with law enforcement. Everybody watches the first 48 and they understand, that if folks don't get real focused real quick, that you're more than likely not going to find whomever we think may have been murdered or assaulted. And we also know that when they said it themselves, when it comes to black boys, he's probably at a football game instead of assuming that he had been, taken away and getting the work done very quickly. So you got the two dynamics that are going on. You have this dehumanization of black boys and black girls and how they're viewed. And then you also got the dynamics that go on with, unfortunately, with law enforcement, where there are some who don't take their job as serious when it comes to black and brown bodies and getting engaged and putting the full resources of their respective departments behind the search.
Again, so folks, we're going to keep updating you. We did reach out to the family's attorney. Folks were under the weather, so we'll try to get them on as soon as we can. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends, go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. If you are going to be a new Republican in Congress, it's best not to show your ass when you get there. Now we already seen crazy Marjorie Greene. I mean, we know how ignorant she is. And there's a black Republican from Utah who has consistently shown his ass on Fox News, sound like a damn fool, a former NFL player, Burgess Owens. Well, Burgess decided on his first day as a member of the House Judiciary Committee to school Democrats on the issue of patriotism for not supporting an amendment Republicans pushed requiring the Pledge of Allegiance at all meetings. Y'all, now he proposed that his peers in the committee to show leadership by standing for the flag during the pledge to show others what unity looks like. Well, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn, head of the House Democratic Conference. Let's just say Hakeem had a few words for Leah Burgess. Play.
I was blessed to grow up in the Deep South, 60s, days of KKK, Jim Crow, segregation. I say blessed because I grew up in a community that believed in our nation, believed in God, believed in their kids, and they were going to fight to prove they could overcome any obstacle. It was a great community that taught us the importance of a flag. It taught us to love God, country, family, respect for women, and authority. And you know the results of that many of you don't know about? In 1960, it was a black community that led our country to growth in the middle class. The black community that led our country in men matriculated from college. Men committed to marriage, over 70%. Percentage of entrepreneurs, over 40%. Why were we kicking butt in those days? Like every other community that was not assimilated at that time? We loved our country. We believed in meritocracy. We taught our kids to stand for that flag and for what it represented. Not perfect, but the best thing in the history of mankind. I went to the University of Miami, the third Black to get a scholarship, graduating in biology and chemistry. Why? Because of my segregated community, we were committed to education. I would go to my dad's laboratory every summer and work. And when a white guy told me I couldn't do it, I spent the next 4 years in college living in that library to prove him wrong. Because my race, like every other race, looked at this country as a place of second chances, of opportunity, and big dreams. Went into the NFL in 1973. No Black centers, no Black quarterbacks, no Black linebackers, no Black middle linebackers. Why? Because those are white thinking positions. $50,000 as a bonus as a first-round draft choice. We have guys making $50 million today to play any position they want to, will not stand for the flag because they've been taught by their adults not to love our nation. What can we do here as leaders, guys? Let's put aside the partisanship, appreciate the fact that we have a body here of every color under the rainbow, every background. Across this country, we have Black police officers, Black mayors. You know, as we have more and more freedom to achieve our dreams, we seem to point more and more at other people for the failures that we have when we make bad decisions. What is my message, guys? I'm going to follow what Congressman Lee says. It's not about words. It is about actions. 15 seconds to show our kids that we're adults, that we can agree to disagree, but we love our country enough to at least stand and represent our flag. For a young man in 73 to 83 to stand on that sideline and get teary-eyed because our flag was flying, we've lost that. We're teaching our kids, any mistake you make is somebody else's fault. That is not the way our country rolls, guys. We gotta do better than that. Why don't we start off just by one simple action? We talk about actions, one simple action. As leaders, let's stand, let's pledge our flag and say thank you for this opportunity to represent the people we're sent here to represent. And that we will be the example of what unity looks like, not just a word. We'll act by saying the words to bring our country together, putting our hands on our hearts and meaning it, and showing everyone, doesn't matter what side of the aisle we're on, this is one thing we can agree on. I yield back.
Will the gentleman yield? Gentleman yield?
Well, no.
Oh, I thank the distinguished chair for this opportunity. I move to strike the last word. I was hoping to engage with the new distinguished gentleman from Utah as he sat here lecturing us about patriotism, and I was just going to ask him how he voted after a violent mob attacked the Capitol to hunt down members of Congress, to hang Mike Pence, to assassinate Nancy Pelosi, to stop us from undertaking our constitutional responsibilities as part of the peaceful transfer of power. More than 100 officers seriously injured, brain injuries, head trauma. One officer lost 3 fingers. Another officer, because of an assault on him, is likely to be blind. Officer Sicknick died. Blood was spilled. 2 other officers are no longer with us. And you want to sit here and lecture us about patriotism when you voted to object to an election that you know Joe Biden won and perpetrated the big lie? I look forward to working with you. We worked with Donald Trump on criminal justice reform, the First Step Act. We worked with Donald Trump on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, his signature political issue. When you know if you were in the other position, you would have never worked with a Democratic president on their signature political issue, trade. But we did it because it was the right thing for America. So we're going to work with Republicans whenever and wherever possible. We did it with Donald Trump. But the notion of you coming here lecturing us on your first day before this committee, it's not about words, it's about actions. You know what? Explain your actions on January 7th when you supported an insurrection. And I was ready to have a dialogue.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I believe the gentleman should address his comments to the chair.
The gentleman will address his comments to the chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I was happy to have a dialogue with the distinguished.
Can I answer that? Will you yield?
No.
Good.
I gave him.
Mr. Jeffrey's time.
It's my time.
The gentleman from New York has the floor.
And you don't really want any of this either.
It's his time now.
But
Will the gentleman yield?
I gave him an opportunity to yield.
Will the gentleman yield to anybody else?
He chose not to.
Apparently not.
So I'm going to finish my statement, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond.
All right.
But you said it was not about words, it's about actions. Those actions, Mr. Chairman, in my view, were unpatriotic to provide aid and comfort to what Republicans in many parts of the country have characterized as a violent insurrection incited by the former president of the United States of America. You also said that any mistake is not your fault in terms of what's being taught to others. That's what the former president of the United States peddled for 4 years. He took no responsibility for anything. And Mr. Chairman, there's some members on the other side of the aisle, including perhaps former NFL players, who defended that kind of irresponsible behavior. So it's just hard to be lectured here, given the actions that have been taken. And I would just hope that we're going to proceed with some measure of truth, decency, and intellectual integrity as we make our arguments, even though we know we're going to fiercely disagree, as has been in the case in the past. I'm happy to yield.
Okay. Was it insurrection when in 2016, 7 of your colleagues objected? Was it insurrection for the last 3 Republican wins, presidential wins that they objected? No, it was not. It was a voice. It was having the people realize you had some concerns. Now, in terms of...
Thank you. Reclaiming my time, you asked the question. I would just simply say, and the impeachment managers are going to do a great job, but a violent insurrection resulted in the spilling of American blood. People died. The Capitol was desecrated. Urine and feces was left behind. The Confederate flag was bandied about. That didn't even happen in this Capitol during the Civil War. The Trump flag was placed in the stead of the American flag. That's an insurrection. That's sedition. That's undemocratic. That's problematic. And the American thing to do is to stand up to it. I yield back.
Okay.
Y'all don't have Burgess's response? Was there a response to that? There was no response to that? Woo! Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeaver, political analyst, Benjamin Dixon, host of Benjamin Dixon, the show, Dr. Julian Mavo, economist, president emerita at Bennett College. Clearly, former Utah Congresswoman Mia Love Avis did not warn Burgess Owens. Don't bring your ass to Congress trying to show up and show out, and don't let the Brooklyn come out of Hakeem Jeffries.
No, she didn't warn the brother. She didn't warn the brother. He just came on up in there all reckless and got wrecked. Okay, it's really sad that you have someone that, in his attempt, people can have different political views. Believe it or not, I actually have some friends who happen to be Republican. But this right here, the argument that he was making was completely detached from fact. And we don't even have to go back decades in terms of fact. We're just going back a couple of weeks in terms of fact when he tried to deny what happened in that chamber. Also, Congressman Jeffries picked up on this, but of his initial soliloquy, what I really focused in on was his specific statement that, quote unquote, any mistake we make is someone else's fault. Nothing annoys me more than when you have a Black person who is put into a position in order to chastise other Black people, when actually the very thing that they are chastising Black people for, the white people who put them there are guilty of it. And that's exactly what this is. As Representative Jeffries rightly pointed out, Trump has never taken responsibility for anything. Never. First of all, let me put it like this. He doesn't take responsibility for most things. For things that happen to go right that he has nothing to do with, he will attempt to take responsibility for that. All right? And that's just one small example of this ridiculous attack on Black people. Let's just be clear about who he is, why he's there, how people felt comfortable putting him there, because they saw him as someone who would put Black people in their place. But luckily, there was someone on that committee who rightfully put him in his place instead.
Ben, the thing that I just really cracked me up, that Burgess wasn't even smart enough to realize how dumb he is. and then he goes, well, when Democrats objected, and Hakeem basically was like, but we ain't tear shit up. We didn't sit here and tell folks to come in and piss all over the Capitol. We didn't tell them to beat and kill cops. We didn't tell them to take the eyes out, cops losing their eyes, fingers losing their fingers. And I'm sitting there going, and your ignorant ass can't figure that out? But see, this is what happens when you get some ignorant. And let me tell you something. I know a lot of Black conservatives, and this is probably their reaction. Look at this motherfucker. Damn.
Making us all look
You just
bad.
come to Congress embarrassing us the first damn day.
Roland, this is what happens.
Hold on. Ben, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, when someone is so ignorant they don't realize how ignorant they really are and they speak out of turn. This is just another incident of a blackface on behalf of white supremacy. He really thought he had some ammunition trying to stand and cape for the flag. All right, God bless America, but there's a lot of stuff that has to be answered for, and we're not just going to be satisfied with tokenism and with the idea that it is more important for us to stand for the flag than it is for us to rectify what happened a few weeks ago. No, he met his match that day.
The thing here that I also just found to be laughable, Julian, is Republicans love to play this game of I'm more patriotic, and so it's the flag, it's the Pledge of Allegiance, it's all of these how dare you kneel, you must stand. Yet the same party who's doing a best that has introduced more than 100 voter suppression bills. They're trying to change the voting laws in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona, all over the country. And it's like, oh, so is that patriotic? See, I love this fake patriotism that they want to hold folks to. And then Burgess, the white guy said this to me, and I spent every day in the library proving him wrong. I'm not wasting my time on no racist ass white people. I ain't proving a damn thing. Man, take your monkey ass on with your racism.
Bro, here's the thing. When you play football regularly, you have put your brain at risk. There is a lot of data that suggests that when you play football regularly, you put your brain at risk. This boy has clearly put his brain at risk. And we saw that. Hakeem Jeffries was not even time enough for him. He was overtime. If you do that in football, I don't know, I'm not a sports fan. But he was overtime for it. These Republicans have been so hypocritical about what they want. What they really want is to win. I mean, I was on a television show with Armstrong Williams about 3 years ago, and he said, our goal is to win. He said, our goal is not to be fair. Our goal is to win. And we're seeing this now. Their goal is to win. And so whether they have to take up for the orange man, whether they have to take up for Marjorie Greene, whatever they'll do, they're going to do that because they want to win. Now, that woman needs to be not only institutionalized, but put into a straitjacket with a muzzle, which is what they did to enslave people back in the day, a straitjacket and a muzzle. But everybody is okay, well, she has a right to the First Amendment. The First Amendment that calls for an assassination of the House Speaker, give me a break. But these people, in the height of hypocrisy, are simmering in their nonsense. And there are few, but not none, responsible Republicans who will deal with this. So this Burgess brother, I don't know where he came from and I don't know where he's going, but he's going somewhere. And it's not any place close to us.
But here's the deal, though. I mean, Avis, I've seen Burgess on Fox News talking all this nonsense and all this BS. And this is the game that they play. And this is where, no, we gonna checkmate your punk ass. That's what we gonna do. And that's what Hakeem should have done. Exactly what he did. And then, I'm reclaiming my time. Just go and sit over there and be quiet. And then all the white Republicans jumping in. Well, you ain't gonna let my house. Shut your ass up too. Be quiet. But again, and that's why it was like the first day. This the first day. This is the equivalent first day of school. You show your ass on the first day of school. Like you don't even wait till Friday. You on the first day of school. On the first day. And the whole that's the equivalent of the whole class look at you like you showing your ass on the first day. Like you ain't even gonna wait. That's why, this clip went viral, a 2-minute clip. I said, I got to see the whole exchange. I need everybody to hear what this fool said and the full response of Hakeem Jeffries because he laid him out. And all I know is there's a dead body somewhere in the halls of Congress, and it got Burgess Owens stamped on his forehead after he just got laid out by Hakeem.
Is he related to Candace? I don't know.
I tell you right now, if your last name Owens, you ain't trying to claim not now one of them fools.
They drink the same
That is
Kool-Aid.
true. That is absolutely true. Here's the issue also. The thing is, this is a difference almost like from coming from the minor leagues to the majors, right? Because he was in the echo chamber, as you mentioned, of Fox News. So, of course, he's going to get doted on. He's going to get loved. He's going to get all the praise and affection because he is repeating the ridiculous messages that they want to be repeated, or at least how much longer they can remain in existence until they get sued out of existence, right? And so there he was the main man, the main man. So he comes into this position with this false sense of certainty in himself and his misguided opinions, and he got checked. This is what you call, it's like he got completely ambushed on day one after walking into this room thinking that he was going to be the one doing the body slamming, and instead it got turned around and he himself is the one that ended up getting sacked.
This is what happens. Ben, I keep warning all these Fox News people. This is what happens when you go on Fox News, where they do affirmation TV, and there's nobody on the other side to check you on your craziness. And so then you figure, I'm right. So then you bring that BS somewhere else, then you get your ass served. Then all of a sudden it's kind of like, damn, what happened? Because you sat over there with them crazy white folks on Fox News, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, all the rest of them, and y'all didn't have anybody else debating. See, there's a reason why they don't call me. There's a reason why. I mean, they don't even, and let me tell you, that they're not calling me. I emailed them. I emailed them like, holla at a brother. Laura, that girl, Libertarian Kennedy, Harris Faulkner, Sean Tucker, they all like, no, that Negro crazy. We ain't go. They like, we know the game they play. Burgess spent too much time going on Fox News, yak, and then Hakeem said, pass me some powder. Let me pimp slap this fool.
I didn't realize how hilarious this panel is, and it's so true.
Oh, no, Ben, this is a black show. This is a black show. See, you ain't gonna get, hey, ain't no MSNBC, CNN, you ain't gonna get no references to baby powder and pimp slapping and monkey ass. You ain't gonna get that. This is a black show. For my white viewers who love watching the show, they appreciate learning about blackness when they watch this show. Because I'm wearing today's the 95th anniversary of my black high school, Jack Yates in Houston. This is a black show.
You know, I have my Vaseline right over here, and I think Hakeem already used some, and I think Burgess is going to need a little bit more, because the honest truth is that echo chamber of Fox News really is, for the last 4 years, they've been serving an audience of one, and that's Donald Trump. And I think Republicans have missed the pendulum swing, right? Like, we're not playing around with white supremacy anymore. White supremacy marched up those steps of the Capitol on January 6th and challenged American democracy, period. And so anyone who's still lingering with this idea that they could ride Donald Trump's coattails to some modicum of success, they're sorely missing out on the reality. And if they're listening or appearing on Fox News, that's even more reason why he's completely clueless to the fact that it wasn't acceptable before the insurrection. It certainly isn't acceptable to kowtow and to be beholden to white supremacy after we've seen how dangerous white supremacy is, not only to black people, we've known that since 1619, but it's dangerous to America as a whole.
Yeah, because the bottom line is this here. Again, you got to check these folks where you can, and that's what we all about. Every single night, we've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Hebert, Patel Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi. Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts. top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to
Rachael
support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our
show,
Bring
The
the Funk
Doctors.
fan club.
Come out
Every dollar
publicly.
that you
Talk about
give
her
to us
experience on the
supports
syndicated
our
daytime
daily
talk
digital
show.
show. Only
She
one
said they
daily
were
digital show out here that keeps it
and
black and
make
keep it
Ellen's
real.
show look
It's
like
Roland
a
Martin
walk in the
Unfiltered.
park. She said that
Support
the
the
whole
Roland
culture
Martin
is
Unfiltered
toxic.
Daily Digital Show
Executive
by
producer
going to
constantly yells at people. She even
RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
cussed me out
You
once.
can make
There
this
was also
possible.
always something about my hair. They were constantly making comments and harassing me about my hair. Now, according to reports, multiple people have complained to the show's executive producer, often shot down pictures involving African Americans and berated producers who wanted to book non-white experts. Not only this, folks, the overarching issues of the toxic workplace at CBS. Now, the EP says, I am devastated by these unfounded and shocking allegations. I stand by my character and know the truth that I have been a champion for diverse talent and inclusive stories throughout my entire career. While it is impossible to prove that I did not do something, I can absolutely say these hurtful lies are not true. Rachael Ross says her contract was not renewed and that she was iced out after she met with CBS about the alleged toxic environment. She joins us right now. Doc, how you doing?
Hey, good. How about yourself, Roland?
I'm doing good. What has it been like for you since you publicly talked about your experience at the doctors? This, of course, comes in the wake of the reports we're dealing with WCBS and their owned and operated stations, and we at NABJ called for the firing of Peter Dunn and David Friend. That's on the CBS O&O. But we've gotten phone calls from people saying that this is across all CBS. It's CBS Radio, it's CBS News, it's CBS Syndication, it's CBS NewsPath, it's CBS O&Os. It is entire corporate culture. What has it been like for you since you talked about this publicly?
Well, you know, it's been interesting because when I went forward, the reporter called me and I gave my take on it. I recognized that this is something that all of us deal with, whether you work for a small business in your town, whether you're working for CBS, and I'm sure even you, Roland, have had situations like this where we're in these positions where, you know, there's somebody that's kind of harassing us, doing microaggressions, and really you kind of grin and bear it because you just have to be happy to be there. So for me personally, being able to talk about it has been like this huge weight lifted off of me because, you know, we're Black folks, and part of this is embarrassing. You know, it's embarrassing that you succumb to the abuses that you do when you go to these things. Everybody thought it was such a great thing for me to be on the show and was wondering what happened. So it was really kind of like this massive weight of bricks coming off of me to actually share some of the experiences, and the article just really touched on the surface of it. I mean, when we say it's toxic, I mean, it was beyond toxic. And, you know, Dr. Ian is there now, and God bless him, because I can't imagine that things are any better for him either.
You know, one of the things you said it best, folks that get excited when they see us in these positions, not realizing what happens behind closed doors, not realizing the kind of comments that are made about us when we're in the room, but most importantly, when we're not in the room as well. And one of the things that we have said to George Cheeks, who is the brother who's over now all of CBS, you've got to examine your entire culture. And if it's here, and here, and then you hear it's here, then you hear it's here. This is not isolated.
No, and if you think about how many lives are ruined and how many careers are offset and how much stress is created and how much chronic disease that results from just the stress that these toxic situations sit with us, it's just absolutely not fair. And so I'm glad that organizations exist that really fight for us and put the things out there, because for me, it's like, I don't want the next generation to have to go through that. I don't want, like, if my daughters decide they want to be on television, for them to have to sit and worry and get that feeling when you're walking onto the set, like, what are they going to mess with me about today? What's going to be the thing? Am I going to be selling shoes today, or am I going to actually be able to talk about being a doctor? So I know you've had some of your own media experiences, and I would venture to say if you got all of us, all the Black people who are actually going to be honest and tell the truth instead of acting like everything's great so that we can get the next job, that if you put us all in a room, that each and every one of us could go through and highlight at least 10 things that have happened that have been ridiculously racist and that we've sat through and acted like it didn't even happen. So I love to have the opportunity to share on a platform like yourself. I'm very selective about who I'm doing any interviews with because, you know, in this environment, you never know which direction they're coming from for you. So I appreciate the opportunity.
The thing that also is sort of it sort of pisses me off. This person, Dominique Johnson, puts on YouTube, get your own show. Stop trying to be up these white folks' ass. First of all, Dominique, do you work at a Black-owned company? Where you work? See, I love the people who always are quick to say, get your own, which is also why I ask, see, here's a perfect example. See, this is why sometimes you should be real careful when you say something. So this person, Dominique Johnson, says, get your own show. So then I asked Dominic, well, are you a supporter of the Roland Martin Unfiltered Fan Club? He goes, no. Well, Dominic, you part of the damn problem. See, it's real easy to say, get your own show, but if folk like you don't fund us, well, who the hell you think gonna fund us? See, you just don't get your own show for the hell of it. Like, this stuff costs money, equipment, monitors, lights, cameras, connectivity, you name it. And so the reality is, I'm not going to use that argument, always get your own. No, I want us to be treated fairly, whether you have a show at the doctor's, whether I'm independent over here or elsewhere. But part of the problem is, it's a whole bunch of us who talk shit, who then don't turn around and don't support us.
That's right. That's right. No, absolutely. And I think Dominique has to kind of go back and reevaluate that because it's absolutely true. I mean, sure, we can go get a show, but shouldn't we be able to sit on a show with other people, with white people, and be treated just like they are? You know, like, why should the Black doctor be singled out to be treated one way and everybody else treated a different way? That is not fair. That's not how things should be. My ancestors built the country. I mean, so why do I need to feel marginalized in certain situations? It's not fair. And that's why I spoke up. I had the opportunity to go off the record or on the record. And I recognized that there was a lot of weight if you go on the record. If you say, yeah, I'm Dr. Rachael Ross, and this was my experience, that's a big deal. And it was easy for me, because I recognize that by doing that, perhaps we're putting a little pressure on people like CBS to stop the madness and to just treat people with the respect that they should be treated with, and fairly, because I did complain. I mean, I complained when I was in the position. I was like, well, look, I've never been treated like this. I don't even know what to do there. I went to a HBCU for medical school. I practiced medicine in Gary, Indiana. I am in my own little isolated bubble, and then I get here and I'm treated like a second-class citizen. Something about this isn't right. So if I go to CBS and tell them all of the things that I'm experiencing, as well as some of the producers who their stories are 10 times worse than mine are undergoing, and they do nothing about it, that is a problem. So I'm glad that we're holding them to the fire. They've put an African-American over CBS now, to try to iron some of these kinks out. But I think that they have a problem that runs way deeper than any of us can ever know or realize.
Well, what is happening and what's running deeply is whiteness. It's whiteness. See, again, earlier today, Annie Apple, her son Eli Apple plays in the NFL, and she was remarking about she said, these sports journalists sure doing a whole lot protecting whiteness. And I said, Annie, that's because most of the sports editors and the radio talk show host, I said, and the columnist, I said, there's more racism in the press box than it is on the field.
Oh.
I mean, that's just the reality. The media industry is largely run by white men. It is.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
and I'm talking about, and not just white men in the executive suite. I'm talking about white men on the network level, on the O&O level, the syndication level, when it comes to agents, when it comes to the business managers, when it comes to the... See, we can go down the whole line. And so, I mean, every time Hollywood holler liberal Hollywood, I'm like, no, don't holler liberal Hollywood, because there's a whole bunch of racist liberals in Hollywood because they also shut black people out. And so we got to call it what it is and not dance around it, because folk think if you write a check to the UNCF, NAACP, you good. Not if you keeping black people from being able to be empowered themselves and being able to grow and thrive.
No, that's awesome. That's right. Now, I'm going to leave you with this funny story. So I had just started on the doctors, and I was under the impression that, hey, you know, I'm relatable. I'm on here. I can handle sex topics. I can handle the health topics. So I am in. This is great. And so as a pep talk before I went out, the executive producer goes, and he's like, you get out there and you be like, I represent the African Americans. Just be it. Be sassy. You represent the African Americans. And I just remember at that point just feeling kind of like, I mean, I know every day I represent African Americans because, you know, that's who I am. But for him to sit and tell me this, that was kind of the beginning of it, where I really recognized, I was like, oh, I'm the black girl on the show. Okay, well, you know, let me see what that's going to be like. So it is time. Time is up. You know, we were using that mantra for a really long time. Time's up. Time's up for us to have to play in the back and to pretend like everything's okay when it's not. I'm actually embarrassed that I sat there for so long and endured some of the stuff that I went through. But hey, it is a learning experience. And I'm hoping that by doing interviews like yours and speaking out, that it gives those of us who are sitting and have to go back tomorrow to a toxic work environment, to give you the power to be like, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. And this is why.
Dr. Rachael, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Chat with you soon.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Where on Monday, the Louisiana State Police arrested 4 state troopers accused of using excessive force, deactivating their body-worn cameras, and making false statements about 2 arrests in 2019 and 2020. A months-long investigation found 3 of the 4 troopers arrested on Monday include 26-year-old George Harper, 28-year-old Dakota DeMoss, and 30-year-old Jacob Brown. All 3 troopers face state charges of simple battery and malfeasance in office in connection with a police chase that took place in May 2020. The other officer, 34-year-old Randall Dickerson, is accused of using excessive force, deactivating his body camera, and making false statements while handcuffing a driver in 2019. The newly appointed state police superintendent, Colonel Lamar Davis, said the use of force in both instances was, quote, inexcusable and tarnishes the exemplary work of our dedicated men and women. He told troopers in an email obtained by the Associated Press, quote, although we once again face a situation that will undoubtedly bring negative public attention to our agency, We must remain committed to holding each other accountable. That's what I'm talking about, Mustafa, when I keep saying when cops turn off those cameras. This is why I say, bottom line is, the moment you sign on, before you walk out that door, you turn it on, it should never come off again. If it comes off, if you turn it off, you should be terminated.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's the only way that we're going to be able to document what's going on. You know, whether it is, you know, harassment or some of these other more egregious behaviors that we unfortunately find law enforcement doing. And even when we are able to document what's going on, it still makes it really tough for folks like Robert and Monique and many others to be able to get justice for, you know, their clients. So, you know, we just got to continue to push on that. And the accountability thing in that statement is necessary. But, you know, they have no problem when it comes to policing in our communities and making sure there's accountability. But, of course, we know the police unions continue to push back and fight when we're asking for accountability to also be on that side of the ledger.
Folks, I always love talking about community accountability, Robert, but they really hate it when you talk about it involving cops.
Well, this is why I still say that if you have a case where a body cam is deactivated, the case should be thrown out. Take away the incentive to have rent-seeking behavior. Take away the incentive that officers will have to turn off those body cams, because just like with anything else, let's put it this way: if you had a camera in your house and then you notice every time you go out of town, your spouse turns the camera off, after about the third or fourth time, you're going to be wondering why they turned the camera off. Same thing with these officers. Why are you turning the camera off if you are confident in the policing that you have done? And quite frankly, as we've said, the technology exists today to have tamper-proof body cameras, which record directly to a cloud that are tamper-proof, where you cannot turn them on and off. That can stream 24 hours a day, that are saved on an external server. So there's no real reason for this not to be taking place already. And we have to push for federal funding and federal guidelines, which say that if you do not institute these policies with your state and local police forces, then you lose access to federal funding for weapons and trainings and other things the federal government funds for local police departments. This is where all that military equipment keeps coming from. So it can be addressed on the federal level, but we do need to push for changes on the state and local level, where we have the most influence for our public officials.
Well, I'm certainly glad to see that the actual state troopers arrested their own, and that you have a superintendent there, Monique, who is demanding accountability.
Absolutely. That to me is the headline for this story, that we've got a department that knows this is going to bring a negative press. We're in it, and it should, because these are the things that need to be reported. But doing the right thing anyway, and not just the body cam. The to me more important part is these were 4 that had excessive force violations that needed to be prosecuted. So these are humans who should not have been assaulted and battered by police officers that are going to get some form of justice. And these officers, prayerfully, will never be able to be a part of law enforcement again.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 50, the Senate being equally divided, The Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the concurrent resolution as amended is adopted.
With that, the COVID relief bill moves forward. Vice President Kamala Harris broke that tie early this morning after Republicans offered nearly 800 amendments trying to slow this process down. This particular bill, of course, would grant the relief necessary to a variety of Americans. But what it also did not do, it did not advance a federal minimum wage increase to $15 an hour. Let's talk about this with our panel. Rob Richardson hosts Disruption Now podcast. Amisha Cross, political analyst and Democratic strategist, and Michael Inhotep hosts the African History Network show. Amisha, this is the first tie that Vice President Kamala Harris has broken. Democrats held firm their 50 votes. All Republicans voted against this. And at the end of the day, this is real simple. If you're Democrats, you can make the argument now, as a result of this bill, that Republicans didn't give a damn about the people impacted by COVID. It was Democrats who are concerned about their economic well-being. So anytime the folks like anytime folks like Congressman Jim Jordan try to say that, oh, we're about the, the blue collar, the working class folks, not if you voted against this particular bill.
You're absolutely right, Roland. And Democrats can, will, and should do exactly that. And I think we're going to see it because there was absolutely no reason for Republicans to vote against this bill. This is a bill that would advance those $1,200 checks that people need so desperately across America. This is a bill that would extend unemployment benefits, which expire in March. This is a bill that provides funding to states and localities to be able to advance what we've seen in terms of the expansion of how many people can get vaccines and the allocations therein. And it just seems crazy to me that Republicans have gone and continue to try to obstruct and obstruct and obstruct some more, while the American people are literally begging. More and more people are losing their jobs every day. There's people who can't feed their children. And this is just a very hard time for the American public. But I will say this, in terms of Vice President Kamala Harris, this is the best first vote that she could have cast, because this tie-breaking vote here makes a huge difference, because for her, she will always be able to go back and say she fought for the American people, and she fought for the American people when Republicans would not. And I think that that's something that she can hang her hat on. And to your point, once more, at the end of the day, Democrats from now throughout the midterms and beyond are going to continue telling Americans exactly what they did. They fought for you when the Republicans wouldn't. And Republicans are going to have to come up with an answer to why they could not and why they would not.
Republicans want to cut the size of this COVID bill. This is President Joe Biden speaking to reporters before he left to go home to Wilmington, Delaware.
Thank you for your patience. We had a very good but long meeting with the chairpersons of the House of Representatives in the Oval, and it went a little longer, but it went very well. Thank you all for being here. I'm accompanied by the Vice President and the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, and I want to talk today about our plan. And the January job numbers came out today. And while we're grateful for everyone who found work and is earning a paycheck, it's very clear our economy is still in trouble. We added just 6,000 private sector jobs in the country last month. Overall, we added 49,000 jobs. And this at a time when we have more than 10 million people out of work. 4 million people have been out of work for 6 months or longer. And 2.5 million women have been driven from the workforce. 15 million Americans are behind in the rental payments. 24 million adults and 12 million children literally don't have enough food to eat. These aren't Democrats or Republicans, they're Americans. And they're suffering. They're suffering not because of anything they did. Through no fault of their own, they're suffering. Once-in-a-century virus has decimated our economy, and it's still wreaking havoc on our economy today. And so much of it is still about the virus. We're still in the teeth of this pandemic. In fact, January was the single deadliest month of the whole pandemic. We lost nearly 100,000 lives. I know some in Congress think we've already done enough to deal with the crisis in the country. Others think that things are getting better and we can afford to sit back and either do little or do nothing at all. That's not what I see. I see enormous pain in this country. A lot of folks out of work, a lot of folks going hungry, staring at the ceiling tonight wondering, what am I going to do tomorrow? A lot of folks trying to figure out how to keep their jobs and take care of their children. A lot of folks reaching the breaking point. Suicides are up, mental health needs are increasing, violence against women and children is increasing. A lot of folks are losing hope. And I believe the American people are looking right now to their government for help, to do our job, to not let them down. So I'm going to act, and I'm going to act fast. I'd like to be doing it with the support of Republicans. I've met with Republicans. There's some really fine people who want to get something done, but they're just not willing to go as far as I think we have to go. I've told both Republicans and Democrats that's my preference, to work together. But if I have to choose between getting help right now to Americans who are hurting so badly and getting bogged down in a lengthy negotiation, or compromising on a bill that's up to the crisis, that's an easy choice. I'm going to help the American people who are hurting now. That's why I'm so grateful to the House and the Senate for moving so fast on the American Rescue Plan. Here's what's in that plan. First, it puts $160 billion into our national COVID-19 strategy, which includes more money for manufacturing, distribution, and setting up of vaccine sites, everything that's needed to get the vaccines into people's arms. There's simply nothing more important than us getting the resources we need to vaccinate the people in this country as soon, as quickly as possible. So job number one of the American Rescue Plan is vaccines. Vaccines. The second, the American Rescue Plan is going to keep the commitment of $2,000, $600 has already gone out, $1,400 checks to people who need it. This is money directly in people's pockets. They need it. We need to target that money, so folks making $300,000 don't get any windfall. But if you're a family that's a two-wage earner, each of the parents, one making 30 grand, one making 40 or 50, maybe that's a little more than, well, yeah, they need the money, and they're going to get it. And here's what I won't do. I'm not cutting the size of the checks. They're going to be $1,400, period. That's what the American people were promised. Very quickly, here's the rest of my plan. It has money for food and nutrition.
First of all, you lays it all out here, Rob. Here's the thing that's important here. Again, Republicans want to make the point that, oh, Trump was populist, he cared about the people. If Democrats consistently say, just like there, right there, was saying, no, we're not going to provide stimulus checks to folks making $300,000. I guarantee you that's going to poll well. That has to be, if Democrats are smart, that has to be their position consistently when it comes to who's not going to get tax breaks, who's not going to get help. That's what you do. And so they can completely destroy any argument Republicans make by saying, oh, Democrats, they're destroying the economy. And here's the piece. Larry Summers, he wrote some article saying, oh, that Biden's plan could be too big. It's real simple. $1.9 billion COVID relief plan, repeal the Trump tax cuts, that's $1.1 billion. Yo, it's paid for.
Yeah, I mean, call it a day. Look, it's nice to hear a president talk in a normal way where it's not a bunch of drama. So I just want to say that. And I acknowledge the fact that he said, yes, he'd like there to be Republican support. We would all like that to happen. But it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. They're not going to do it on any bill, so they should get used to this. Every single bill of any substance is going to require 51 votes. It's going to require Vice President Harris to break that vote. And Democrats need to come from that mindset and frame, and just like you said, Roland, they need to frame not only who they're helping and who they're not, but who the Republicans aren't helping. They don't want to help you. They are trying to hurt you. They are hurting the economy. They're not working with you, and they don't want to work for you. They just want to take our country back because that's all they care about is power. And so we got to make sure we're proactive in that message and not and not wait and expect Republicans to come along. Like we do have to make the attempt, but we don't have to wait on them. And I know we got Joe Manchin, one person who wants to convince Republicans. I know he's in a Republican state, but look, while you're there, get some stuff done for people and hope that they reelect you. Otherwise, nothing else matters, because they are not going to work with you. No matter what you do, they're going to find a way to work against you. We know who they are.
The thing here, Michael, is the Republican governor of West Virginia was begging for the money. Well, he used to be a Democrat, then he flipped to Republican when Trump was there. Don't be shocked if he flips back to Democrat while Biden is there. And so he made the point they needed the money. Because Republicans did not like this particular bill because they felt that it was too much money for local and state governments, for them bailing them out when they really only wanted to target those blue cities, those blue states. Again, if Democrats are smart, every move you make is all about how you are helping those who make less than $200,000 or $300,000 a year. If you are a family out there and you're making 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 grand, trust me, you don't give a damn about somebody making five times as much money as you, who all of a sudden it says, well, what about us? Trust me, if you're making combined 300 grand a year, you're doing fine compared to most Americans.
Yeah, for the most part, that's true, Roland. And it's interesting you mentioned some of the governors, because you're going to have a lot. I think you're going to have a lot of Republican governors. They have a lot of poor white people in their states who need this money. And the other thing is, blue-leaning states or Democratic states contribute more each year to the federal taxpayer pot than red states, than Republican states. And this is something that Governor Cuomo of New York pointed out a few months ago to Moscow Mitch McConnell, who's in a very poor state, Kentucky, Mitch McConnell. So I think what they're doing is a really good strategy to push this. I think you may have, like in the House, you may have a handful, maybe some of those 11 Republicans that voted to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments. You may have a handful of that, but we can't wait. And it's extremely important for them to connect these policies to the economy and to the economic conditions of individuals. The reason why is because 2022 midterm elections are right around the corner. And as TheGuardian.com pointed out, and I've dealt with on my show and you've dealt with on your show, Republicans in state legislatures across the country have introduced 106 bills to make it harder to vote, especially for African Americans and Latinos, et cetera. So we have to make a clear connection between these policies in Washington, D.C. and the economic conditions down on Main Street.
And again, hopefully you will have an administration that actually says, let's put the money where there is most in need. Every single night, we've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Hebert, Patel Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota and Amy Klobuchar. Mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capital Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriot with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi. Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. This is why this is critically important right here. And this is why this is a strange, not real trial, Monique. You see him standing there saying Donald Trump called Tommy Tuberville, who's sitting his ass in the chamber. If this was a trial, you would say, we have a witness. They showed the tweets from the story from Kevin McCarthy. They would have said, we call Kevin McCarthy as a witness. Republicans yelled, oh, if you dare call witnesses, we're going to call our own. We're going to call Vice President Kamala Harris. We're going to call, which was also stupid. But imagine a person who's sitting there who can confirm, yes, he did call me, and he called me and didn't want to talk about what was happening. He wanted me to further delay it. He's literally sitting there. He's one of the jurors. So a witness is one of the jurors.
Well, no. Every juror is a witness.
Right.
All the lawyers are witnesses.
Right, but I'm saying, but specifically, the argument he's laying out, Trump calls Tuberville, and Tuberville is sitting right there.
Of course, but the thing is, they're not pumped into not calling him. They know it's a waste of time because you put any of them on the stand, you get more information. And that's the assessment that a trial lawyer makes all the time. You may have a witness list that has 72 people on it. You may call 6 because you want witnesses where you know you're going to get the stuff you do want, especially if you're calling them. I can't do nothing about what those other folks call. I got a cross-examination waiting for him. I'll do the best I can. I'll object during direct. But when it's my witness, I'm responsible if I call a witness and they get up there and act a plumb fool. And you are guaranteed that as a House manager, if you call a GOP senator as a witness, you're going to get mouthfuls of things you don't want for every one little bite of what you do. So this is much more effective. And if it was a lie, they would object. They would file motions. No motions were filed after yesterday. None will be filed after tonight. That's the way that process works. So yes, normally lawyers wouldn't be almost having a fight breaking down because they're fact witnesses in their own cases, the way these House managers are. These are very special circumstances, but also, there are no rules of evidence. This isn't a legal court of law. That's why it's important that they can make their decisions based on what they hear, whether it follows the federal rules of evidence or not. It's not required. Whether it's a criminal violation or not, it's not required. They can vote. They can vote their conscience. And that's the other thing. that I want to say. All these constitutional arguments that the Republican senators are putting up, I just don't believe we should be here. I don't believe that this is constitutional to have an impeachment trial when a president is no longer in office. Boo. That ship sailed yesterday with a vote. Your obligation now is to be a trier of fact, to listen to the evidence and to decide based on the evidence. If former President Trump was wrongfully voted against and shouldn't be taken to trial, he has vehicles in order to object to that.
Got it.
He has a way of recourse.
Robert,
so they got to listen to these facts and vote.
Robert, go ahead.
Well, and particularly to Monique's point, let's realize that some of these Congress people and senators are victims in the case. Some of them are victims and witnesses. Some of them are accomplices who are there also, people like Ted Cruz and Joe Hawley. And so, of course, this process is not going to be fair. Of course, the process is not going to be judicial. There are no federal rules of evidence, all those sorts of things. But circling back, I do think that what the House Democrats are doing, what the managers are doing, are putting alley-oop up there to every single prosecutor in this country that may need evidence. They're showing them that if there are some MAGA supporters in your hometown who are at the Capitol, here's all the evidence you need to prosecute them. And particularly for President Trump, they're letting him know that, look, the Southern District of New York will be coming after you. The Department of Justice will be coming after you. Fulton County will be coming after you. More than likely, there will be additional jurisdictions when we find out what other states Donald Trump made those sorts of phone calls will be coming after you. I think at this point it's a fait accompli that regardless of what the GOP vote is on this, all we're doing is putting on record how many United States senators would put the president above themselves, above the Constitution, above this country, above the rule of law. And so it's going to be very difficult for those people. If we aren't seeing 44 or 45 primary challengers and then general election challengers coming up in the next couple of years in these Senate elections, I'll be very surprised because these senators are now on record and they'll either be challenged from the far right, from the Trump wing of the party, or they'll get a Democratic challenger who will be so appalled by the way that they've conducted themselves that they'll have every reason to run against them.
But Robert, what are their constituents saying?
Easy. They're saying, yay, Trump, yay.
Well, no, but I guess that's my point. I believe that senators in a situation like this, they've been elected, and so now they vote their conscience, right? But senators are saying that they have an obligation to vote along the lines of their constituency. So I don't know about all of these different challengers in those jurisdictions where the citizens are really like.
Look, at the end of the day, Mustafa, this party is the Trump party. The Trump party is the Republican Party. And here's the deal. If they show us they have no conscience, they have no integrity, they have no decency, well, then they have exposed who they are. And that's why I say they're dead to me. I don't want to hear anything from them. There's nothing they can say to me. There's absolutely nothing that they can say to me. I don't want to hear them talk about unity or can we all come together. The answer is no.
They took the same oath that I took. So they make a decision. If they're going to live up to that oath, if they're actually going to honor the Constitution, if they're going to honor democracy, and if they don't, then like you said, they're of no value.
Simple as that. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Attorney General William Barr blocked ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin from pleading guilty in George Floyd's death. Now, officials say Barr rejected the plea deal because he felt like it was too soon and that the investigation into Floyd's death was in its early stages. Officials told the Associated Press that the former police officer was prepared to plead guilty to third-degree murder in George Floyd's death before Barr blocked the plea deal last year. Now, on May 25th, bystander video captured Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck as Floyd cried out that he couldn't breathe for almost 9 minutes. Floyd's death sparked outrage not just in the U.S., but around the world. Many activists called for the defunding of police departments across the nation. Chauvin is scheduled for trial March 8th. He faces charges of second-degree murder and manslaughter. The 3 other officers involved in Floyd's death will face trial later this year. Joining me now to continue this discussion is attorney Ben Crump. Ben Crump, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, Derek Chauvin could be behind bars right now if Barr hadn't rejected his plea deal. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's very intriguing when you think about the fact that one of the things they said would be accomplished by him ending this plea would be that the protests, the unrest would likely come to a halt once he was held accountable. But you remember then President Donald Trump was using the Black Lives Matter protests all around America after George Floyd as political rhetoric, saying that Democrats could not control their cities and that he was the law and order president and that he was going to rein in these Black Lives Matter protesters, which was very interesting considering the fact that when they had the protests and the illegal actions done on January 6, 2021, he wasn't that law and order president. So I think this may be bigger, this may be part of a bigger dynamic where this Attorney General Barr, they did not want to see the protests stop.
So what you're saying, as we know, former Attorney General Bill Barr, his thoughts were in line with Trump a lot of the times. And as it's come out yesterday that he rejected the plea deal simply because he said it was too soon and that the investigation was in its infancy. But you're basically saying that there has to be a bigger picture here. And that's not at all the reason behind this.
But what I'm saying is one could look at all of the dynamics at play, and we will never know what was in his mind or in his heart when he prevented the plea of the officer who kept his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds to be held to account using the pretext excuse that the investigation was too early. Well, they convict Black people all the time when there's little to no investigation. What was different about this situation? The fact that you had the video that showed the crime that he committed. It was clear that he caused George Floyd death and that he was the person most culpable of causing George Floyd to no longer be able to live. And the fact that he says it's too early to have him in a plea of guilty to murder is asinine. The video from day one told us that Derek Chauvin was guilty of murder.
Ben, a lot of people are on the same page as you, and I know when I read this report yesterday, I was saying to myself, was the video not enough? It's clear in the video what Derek Chauvin was doing. It's clear that George Floyd was in distress and he was calling out for his mother as Chauvin had his knee on his neck for that 8 minutes and 46 seconds. So it's really strange that Barr said it was too soon. And like you said, if Derek Chauvin, maybe if he were a Black officer, the situation would have been different and he would have been charged and sentenced possibly for the murder of someone. Now, I was there during the George Floyd protests. I was in Minneapolis on the ground reporting in May and June. And so I spoke to a lot of activists who were saying to me that they don't believe justice will be served in this case. They believe, especially where Derek Chauvin will have a separate trial from the other 3 officers, that he's going to get off. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't ever take it for granted when a white police officer unjustifiably kills an unarmed black person in America, that it is a foregone conclusion that he will be convicted. However, I do believe this evidence is overwhelming that Derek Chauvin will be convicted of killing George Floyd. With that said, we are never, ever surprised when they enter into the intellectual justification of discrimination to further engage in the legalized genocide of colored people. So we don't take it for granted. We all have to be focused in Minneapolis on March 8th until we hear the judge gavel come down, finding him guilty of murder, murder, murder.
Ben, before I let you go, has the family said anything in reference to this new news?
I'm sorry?
Has the family said anything in reference to this new news about former Attorney General Barr?
You know, the family has been focused on trying to prepare themselves for the trial, so I don't think they have dealt with these issues at all. You can imagine the emotions they're going to go through watching this trial, as all of us are going to go through. I'm certain that that video will be shown 100 times from every different angle. And to us, George Floyd is a hashtag. To them, that is their brother, their father. I mean, remember Philonise and Rodney slept in the bed with George when they were little boys. And to watch him have to suffer like that and they not be there for him is heart-wrenching. And so we just pray that they can find a purpose from all this pain that they're having to endure.
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking. And like you said, Ben, for all of us, even if we didn't know him, just watching that tape on repeat, it was devastating to see something like that happen to an American, right? To happen to someone like George Floyd. We will be following this case as we have been doing, and we will stay in touch. Thank you so much, Attorney Ben Crump.
Thank you for covering this important matter.
All right, I want to open this up to my panel. Now, Candace, what are your thoughts on former Attorney General Bill Barr basically rejecting this plea deal that could have landed Derek Chauvin in jail?
Well, you know, even if he had landed him in jail, Derek Chauvin said, I'll go to jail for 10 years, which is not a lot of time, especially if we're going to find out down the line that he gets off a little earlier because of good behavior. So that really is nothing when you look at the life of George Floyd that was taken away. But certainly there had to be some strategy behind William Barr rejecting this idea that he go to jail on a third-degree manslaughter charge. And certainly I think that Ben Crump has hit the nail on the head, obviously, in that Bill Barr is not someone who has great sympathy for Black men. Look at what he did in lifting the federal moratorium 6 months, just a few months before the ending of Donald Trump's term. He did that for a reason. He made sure that Black men were put to death, and in the most expeditious way than we've seen from any other president, lifting the moratorium. So there was more than we know that was going on behind the scenes. This wasn't Bill Barr just saying, no, I believe that, that we should have some more investigative work into this because Derek Chauvin will probably be found guilty. He was doing this as part of a political scheme, just like Crump said.
And like you're saying, Candace, when it comes to Bill Barr, there was an interview that kind of went viral last year where he was saying that he didn't believe police brutality was a thing. But he was saying that racism wasn't a thing. But in the same breath, he talked about how systemic issues are a thing. And so essentially, he was admitting that racism is a thing. And so we know that he isn't for the Black community. We know that he isn't for the George Floyds in this country. And so to see him reject that, of course, it does not come as a shock. Was there something else you want to say, Candace?
Well, I was just saying that, yeah, and certainly we've seen that in not only this, but in other contexts in terms of what they think, not only about Black men, Black people, the Black Lives Matter protests. This was all part of a bigger scheme. And the fact that Derek Chauvin found it just, had the privilege in him enough to say, not only do I accept 10 years, but I would like to go to federal prison. And in addition to that, I do not want to be sued down the line for civil rights. And which is why we're dealing with William Barr in the first place, because this would have been a civil rights issue that they would have had to make go away. And when we look at cases historically of people being sued for police brutality and then police getting off, they generally go further and sue for their civil rights. And that's where they have their wins. So Derek Chauvin was saying, yes, give me this little sentence. And then down the line, I don't even want to be put back on the stand for civil rights. It really doesn't make any sense. And it all would have worked extra well in his favor.
That's a good point, Candace. Now, Michael, what are your thoughts?
Well, I talked about this last night on the African History Network show, and News1.com has an article about it, as well as NBC News. NBC picked it up from the New York Times. So I posted it also on our Facebook fan page. So some people were saying they were happy that the plea deal was not accepted because they want Derek Chauvin, former officer Derek Chauvin, to be put on trial. I found it interesting that he did not want to face federal civil rights charges. Okay. We know the bar is high for federal civil rights charges. You have to prove willful intent. It probably applies here. Willful intent probably applies here. But the other thing was, Attorney Crump, I think, made the point, or somebody alluded to the point, that maybe they did not want the protest to stop. If Officer Derek Chauvin had have pleaded and gone to prison, a lot of the protests out in the streets probably would have dissipated. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump juxtaposed the protests with law and order and campaigned on this, okay? And the Wicked Witch of the West Wing of the White House, Kellyanne Conway, basically got caught saying that to a certain extent, the protests were good for Trump and his reelection. The protests out in the streets, because he's saying this is what streets are going to look like if Biden's president. But wait a second, this is what they look like under the Trump administration. Okay, so it may have been a tool to say we want these protests to keep going on so we could campaign on this and try to stay in office.
That was good. As you said, Michael, he was doing a lot of projecting, and that just goes back to inciting the Capitol insurrection, where during the debates he was saying, stand by, stand back. Basically, we have to take our country back. Right.
Stand by and stand back to the Proud Boys. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, Mustafa, we're going to end with you. What are your thoughts?
Well, we can just deal with the facts. Trump was dealing with a failing economy. Trump was dealing with a pandemic. So, he wanted these types of things to continue to go forward, to take away from, some of the core issues that he was failing on and continued to fail on until the last day that he was in office. But we should also remember the value of this show. When A.G. Barr was being up for the confirmation process, we began to talk about folks really need to pay attention to him. He was a smooth operator, and people, didn't see through the veneer that he had put on and thought, well, maybe he'll take a moderate stance. Maybe he'll actually care about all communities and do the right thing. And we called out on this show, y'all pay attention, y'all get engaged. Make sure that you're reaching out to your elected officials to make sure they're asking the right questions. So when we don't do that, then we end up with these types of situations that have repercussions and ripples that continue to follow out through the 3 or 4 years that people are in these positions. So, it's such a shame that he would interject himself into this process where he would not have done it if it was a person of color.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends, Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.